Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is my Sage colleague, AZ Zabala. AZ, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, bud?
How's it good to be back out in the field?
Oh, man, it feels amazing. Like when you get to actually look people in the eye, shake their hands if they're comfortable, and have some honest connections. It just feels good. It's been good a couple days.
I used to make this joke. People say, hey, it's good to see you. And I said, it's better to be seen, not viewed. And, of course, the joke was viewed as in your funeral. But
right.
Now it's like viewed as in Zoom. So I'm like, it's going to be seen, not viewed. So here we are at AICPA Engage 2021. It's not like the Olympics. We actually are calling this 2021. We're not delaying it.
We're keeping the theme of keeping the year.
Keeping the year, right. So what have you learned about the accounting profession in the last year?
It's a pragmatic, obviously, profession, right? And I think with the changes that happened with the unexpected, definitely there has been an impact on the way people do work, the outcomes that they get from the changes that they're getting work. And then people now are either scrambling or optimizing to really get their businesses moving in a different trajectory than they were before. I'm seeing accountants run their practices more like entrepreneurs than before. I'm seeing accounting professionals be more open to new technologies and understanding that the application of them is what's important and not just knowing about them or thinking, that's not good enough for me to try right now. So it's been really good to see how open people are to like, hey, I need to change my game up a little bit and being proactive about it.
Yeah, I think the shakeup clearly was, hey, we thought this was going to be temporary. Remember, it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right?
That's
and then
right.
everybody's like, and then we're going back to the office. Not so much, right?
Yeah.
And now I think people are like, even though we're probably going to get back to the office soon, people have been at home for so long, you're going to have to make the adjustment. I mean,
right.
Even Apple, I think, is having a tough time getting people to come back.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and part of it is just obviously the tools that you use, but the other parts are just the rhythms of business and what people are used to doing now. I know you experienced it and have for a long time, but like if you needed to just plug in at 11:30 at night because you forgot to do something and lost yourself in work for an hour, you were perfectly okay doing that. You're not necessarily that okay doing that if you know you got to wake up in 6 hours to make a trek back.
Right. Well, it was weird for me because the one difference, I mean, I've been working from home for 18 years, right? So it was just the non-travel. So this is the first time in 18 months that I've been able to travel.
That's right.
But yeah, I think I really didn't get that same sense of adjustment that most people did because I was always that way. For a long time I'd been that way. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I need to throw on a load of wash. I just go do that.
That's right. And then jump back on my call.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I think that's the biggest difference. But just accountants in general, I think they've really risen to the occasion. I think they truly were, in the business sense, the first responders with, PPP and all of that. And I think they handled it extraordinarily well for the most part. And I think that they're still doing yeoman's work in a lot of areas because they're still issuing clarifications to clarifications.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I made the analogy. I was having a conversation. I can't remember who it was with a couple of weeks ago, but it's really like if you think of like an ice cream sundae, they are the bowl that is keeping it from melting. And honestly, in every sense of the word. I've heard it about the future planning. I've heard it about in retroactive corrections. I've heard it in about just business process and practice in general. They are really doing more work than they ever have before. And a lot of that work is just supporting, the health and the growth of the biggest part of our economy.
Mm-hmm. And the really cool part is that what I think they're finding is they're really doing that advisory work. And I think some of them fell into it by mistake, right?
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, now I sort of get what this is about.
Yeah, and it's growing branches because it's not just about the regular advisory work that we had been talking about for the past 10 years or so, right? Now it's getting into like, advisory as it relates to people, advisory as it relates to, future planning, all of those kind of different branches. And I think it's also more fun for them. I've had conversations in the last couple of days with some accounting pros, and you can tell that there's like a fire back in their eyes again about something new that they uncovered that they loved, and they want to keep, expanding upon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff. Well, what have you learned about yourself in the last 18 months?
I always knew that I liked being a loner. And, I love people, but I'm on all day long as you are too, right? So when you get those quiet times, it's good. What I didn't know about myself, though, was really just how much I wasn't present in moments with family or loved ones. And I've this time, in the past 18 months, has kind of helped me kind of be really present in the moment and enjoy some things that I can tell you I know I would have missed before because I was just like, oh yeah, I got this other thing I got to go do. I've got a busy schedule. I've got whatever that wasn't keeping me present in the moment. And what I learned about myself is being present actually makes me a lot happier.
Yeah, I think the mindfulness has really helped. And this is something that Sage did for us. They bought us all Headspace when this whole thing happened. And I can't say that I've continued on, but I think the practices that I did learn, and I think I did it for 4 or 5 months. Mm-hmm. And I think that made a big difference in just the way that I brought myself from a presence standpoint to my family, but also in business conversations now, too.
Absolutely. I definitely listen and hear things that I know I wouldn't have heard before. Mm-hmm. And it is because my mind is clear. I'm not worried about, especially when you have a condensed, commute or you have something that's causing you to have to be somewhere at a specific time, you're going to be thinking about that as opposed to in the moment, no matter how hard you try to just block everything out. And the practice of being present, especially using those resources that Sage gave us, has actually helped me in business, in my personal life, but it's just made me a lot happier. And actually I function better when I'm in just a better mood and more light of heart.
All right, well, AZ, as you know, I've got an exit question that I ask everybody every time, regardless of how many times they've been on the podcast, and that is, who is a hero of yours, and why are they a hero?
So last time I talked about my business heroes, I'll be a little bit more personal this time. My mom is actually my hero. Number one, she's an entrepreneur. She cleans houses to this day. My mom restarted her life with $10 in her pocket, her 2 kids, her car, 2 blankets, and 3 days worth of clothes for her kids. And from that, she was able to provide a great living for my brother and I. She was able to get us to school, and both of us are practicing professionals, active in the work world. So for that reason, really, she's my hero. And I tell her that all the time, and it's almost like she's like, well, that's what I was supposed to do. But for the first time, 4 months ago, I said it to her, and she had a little bit of a tear, and my mom is not a crier. So I know that it meant something to her. So that was great.
All right. AZ Zabala, my colleague at Sage, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
It's a pleasure as always, Ed. Thanks.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.